She does. Kills everyone.
So, ako naman, I'll introduce myself. My name is Dan Benares. I actually also recently launched a new channel. It's like a passion project of talk about geeky stuff and to so it's stuff na we don't do in level up. I'll be doing it on. I am actually a professional writer. Um, in my spare time, I actually serve in church, but I am a gamer. Oh, since I was young, I've been playing times of, I know some people won't relate to this anymore. I've actually been time of MS. I remember playing that Prince of Persia,
Yeah,
the
we
DOS
don't
game.
relate already.
You don't even use a mouse; you just use a keyboard. Entire game, just mostly arrow keys of the keyboard.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
with the pandemic right now, we've mostly online.
Spending time online.
To kick this off, the question for tonight is: should Christians be? You haven't figured it out. We're all Christians here. And but we
We
find
are.
that we can actually spend time in our game, our hobbies, standing firm in our faith. But that is a question, and most of us, I think, this is a question that often happens or often right for Christians to be playing. Should we be playing? Should we be something more productive? So, what? Or actually, we answer that question. What I want to ask is, why are we asking that question in the first place, right? Why is it so important for us to ask that question, right? Ano sa tingin nyo, guys?
Uh, why are we asking that question? Well, recently we did come from a series of workshops, right? A conference at which our home church for this particular group, CCF just ran. And one of the workshops there was tackling about online and digital time consumed. And games are among one of the largest, how do you say, time sinks for people to spend their time on. And this is very prevalent nowadays. So especially with the pandemic and the quarantines, you're stuck at home. Other options of entertainment can be more restricted. The more physical types, like for example, you can't go out as much and play sports, depending where you are in the world and how strict your protocols are in your particular country. But regardless, your exposure to people playing outdoors is more likely somewhat more limited, which means to say that you're stuck at home for a
Mhm.
large part. And the things you can do at home are pretty much what you can watch TV or
Movies.
stream
Mhm.
stuff, yeah. But that's fairly passive. Whereas when you play games, it's more active and you have more interaction, which is why it's most likely the statistics on this, on numbers, that gaming time across the world has exploded everywhere. So this is
Yeah.
definitely a very important and relevant concern and issue in every
We're
household.
saying?
Why is it? Well, I mean, even before the pandemic, there's already the um, what's the word? The stigma? Is that the word? Yeah, that yeah. Basically, playing video games is not a productive use of your time.
Mm.
One of the common arguments playing video games. Productive, it's not a good use. So, Ninay, how about you? What do you think about that?
Pre-pandemic or during the pandemic?
Both, why not?
In general.
Both. Okay, so I suppose like during the pandemic it it became became a way for us to, especially multiplayer games. Like it made us interact with one another. You
Hmm.
know, like we couldn't see each other physically, so um, why not just do it in video games? And
Right.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's true.
I think it's the same personally. Um, question is very relevant in our age. A lot of people are playing.
Hmm.
Some of them are younger than us, and
Yes.
fact of life. I think it's not something that we uh, forget and say or technology testing
Very impractical.
practical for that matter. As now that we are in a pandemic, everyone's just at home. And I was
Yeah.
watching this video that because of the pandemic has actually given a lot of games because of the pandemic.
Mm.
Weird, falling apart. Why? Because everybody's at home. Everybody don't. A lot of people don't have. They're either playing. The people who weren't gamers are now playing casual games like Among Us or Black Box.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
A bunch of other games. Right? Ask that question. Are we right for us video game? So before we
That,
continue, just want to shout out to
that's
those who are
true.
watching. We actually have hello
Nice.
guys. Hi Oscar. Oscar saying that we are a fan. He wants a fan sign.
Hey,
And
we're watching.
uh, we have a few other people here. Hi Carlo. Hi Hi Anthony. Hi Mai. Hi Vince. Yeah, Vince and Kim. Vince is one of our conscious geeks. Of course, we
Yeah.
have Kim and Mai and Mimi. Yeah, hi guys. Thank you for tonight. So let's go on and continue. Next question that I want to bring is one of the most common, I think, most common uh,
Mm.
video game is that games are demonic or will lead to violence. I think this is the most one of the most common arguments. I understand where some people are parents, but is it true?
Mm.
What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so we're kind of jumping a little here, but because we go from like, is gaming relevant, and we went straight into our game's demonic. Uh, so we have to like backtracking on that. Maybe we have to unpack some terms, right? Like, what does it mean to be if something is quote unquote demonic? Diba? That's something like I'd like to toss up there.
Right.
So yeah, so what does that mean? Like when you call a game or anything demonic, it means that it's what? Inhabited by or influenced by
Yeah.
demons or something. So yeah, let's throw that to the
I'm looking up the definition, like a dictionary definition.
just like any true geek or nerd, it's like, I'm not so sure about that. So just
Yeah,
gonna
resembling or
yeah.
characteristic of demons or evil spirits. Yeah. So
So yeah, resembling. Um so yeah, going by that definition, anything that resembles demonic imagery, quote unquote, could be considered quote unquote demonic. Um, but I don't think that quite answers the question because to most people, I think what is more important is that is it gonna like change your
who you
behavior,
are.
your thinking, right?
Right.
Which the answer to that is much more complicated than a yes or no.
Hmm.
Because as we've seen through history, there are lots of activities that are considered or have been at some point considered demonic, such as radio, music, television, uh,
Wasn't
books,
dancing also considered bad?
dancing.
Or is that just footloose?
basically the dancing.
Like the
I
use
love
of
that reference.
drums were like
Footloose.
And it's funny,
considered
yeah.
demonic.
Yeah, it's been considered demonic, but at some point the use of drugs was considered religious as well.
Drums.
So
I said drums, as in
drums.
not drum-
Sorry, drugs is what I heard. But I mean, it goes all over the spectrum. Like so
Hmm.
many different objects or activities have at some point been considered either demonic or spiritual. So that's a very difficult question to tackle.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Um,
yeah.
Speaking
Yeah.
of drums, this is such a trivia. Is it? Hi guys, this is such a geeky trivia. This is what we do. But there
Mm.
was a time where certain churches, especially in Baptist churches, were playing drums during a worship service was considered demonic. So they did not do that until much later. Considered now, it's like an ordinary part of worship service. Go to
Mhm.
any evangelical church, probably that. But there was a time that no, that's from demons. You shouldn't, because it conjures up the idea of incantations and whatever. That's
That's
why
right.
they said that drums were. Anyway,
So yeah, so that
um,
brings us to the main idea that so many activities or yeah,
Were once considered.
activities
Mm.
were once considered or were once understood or misunderstood as having demonic influence.
I'm glad that you
So,
brought that up, John, because the question
mhm,
now is what what makes or what is the difference between video games, all of those other forms of was considered demonic before, but is no longer, right? What makes games so special? Why games are get a bad rep for violent, a lot of negative effects, etc.
yeah, I've been hogging the airtime. I wanna pass it on
I,
to my other two brothers
hmm.
and sisters here.
Okay. I think it has more to do with what the popular games are. Which, I mean, what are the popular games right now? You have some zombie games. I mean, even Resident Evil's being hyped up right now. Um, you have shooter games where people are, killing each other for Grand Theft Auto, where the whole point is to be a criminal, like you do heists and other stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the reason why most people consider it demonic. They're trying to parang it's because of these games that they parang generalize it to every other game
Mm-hmm.
on the market. Which I think is how it was the same like with the drums before. Like it used to be like with cults only, so they linked it to that and they didn't want drums at all. But when they were able to separate their thoughts from that, um, or their mindset from those things, it became easier to accept. So I think it's just a matter of which games or
Mm.
yeah, which games exactly to avoid.
All right.
Very good point. I think when it comes to games, we cannot just generalize, right? That all games are bad.
Mm.
All games are demonic. It also comes down to content of the game that we're playing.
It comes
It's
down to the
not just
person,
this
actually.
is bad, and all of this is bad just because it's a video game.
Yeah, it goes down also to the specific person playing the game. But yeah, I want to hear from Ninai because we've heard from all the guys so far. So, from a lady's point of view, the questions we've tackled, what do you have? What do you think about this?
What
Can't hear
are
you.
Oh, sorry, hello.
Tap tap. There you
There
go.
you go.
Okay. So I apologize in advance if you hear barking in the background because yeah, I have lots of
It's
dogs. But
okay.
anyways,
Dog life.
um
Actually, it's okay. We don't hear it. It's fine.
Hmm?
so demonic games as demonic. Well, I don't I don't think all games are because I mean there are others that have themes like occult stuff
Mm.
which which dabbles into that, and you should, I don't know, you should be careful with the kind of material that you consume, because with the occult stuff there, um me, I steer clear of those, because basically, I'm a coward when it comes to those things.
It's alright.
And it's really scary. Like, nope, I don't want to pay money to be scared. But aside from that, like, I think as long as you don't embody it in real life, like, okay, you play Grand Theft Auto, but you won't really do the stuff that you do there, right? I don't know. That's just me, though. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I
that's
think
fine. That's fine.
you know what I completely agree. Bodying things. I think there are games which personally I would not really promote to anyone. You mentioned Grand
Mhm.
Theft Auto. I personally that's on my blacklist. Sorry guys if there are Theft Auto fans there. Why do I say not to play these games? Because number one, it um promotes a lot of vices. It promotes alcoholism. It promotes drugs. Promotes what do you call it? Promiscuity, sex outside of marriage. So like it's like saying that it's good to be bad. It's good to be like a villain or a criminal. Not not true. And it really goes against my own personal values. So it's something that I would say
Mhm.
not play.
Mhm.
And if you are a young kid, just to be clear, Grand Theft Auto actually is for mature adults. You don't. You're a kid. You shouldn't be playing it at all. But
Yeah.
Yeah, the rating for it is M, which means to say you're supposed to be at least 18 years old and
18.
above. So if you
yes,
happen to be playing this at below that age, which is just a general suggestion, but yeah, you shouldn't even be touching these kinds of games.
exactly. But if you, let's just face it, there are people who don't check ratings. They don't check, and
Hmm.
um, I'm sorry to say that there are also parents who not checking what are the games that their children are playing. So their children is playing Grand Theft Auto, impressionable to their minds. It will be the idea that good.
I think rather than just focus on single game, however, we have to take it back to a more principled, fundamental view. Because I noticed we jumped straight into why games, if games are demonic or not. But in the first place, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who didn't even get that far. They're just looking at gaming in general as bad. So maybe that's something we should also tackle, like bringing it back into the broader sense of
Okay.
gaming. So, and I like what was mentioned to us before. Like there are some fundamental questions we have to answer about gaming, which is not one of them is in the first place, why do you game?
Okay.
Why do you game? So that's one. And then the second one I think is more related to are some games or are games demonic is what kind of content is there. So you have a more fundamental one and you have a one that's a little bit more nuanced and technical. So
Mhm.
I kind of just want to throw the first question back to the group, which is why do we game in the first place? We as in us specifically, and we as in a general uh, people.
Okay.
So I don't know, John. You wanna? Can I throw that to you first?
Sure.
All right, let's go with that.
Um,
Let's go with that.
why do I play games? Um, I really play games because I find enjoyment in it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like there are people watching TV on K dramas, guys,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yep.
or there are people who enjoy sports like basketball and so obsessive about basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Same manner, I play games I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Relaxing, stress, entertainment. Um, Carlo just mentioned here in that it's also about being competitive. Yes, I think Nina, I
Mhm.
can relate to this. There's that level of
What?
competitiveness that you want to
I think
win.
I
You
think
wanna
I think we all can relate to
We
this. Like
all wanna
comparing stuff.
win.
Some people are just a little more focused about it.
Just yeah.
But
That's just part
yeah,
of the game.
I think that's why I play games. Had a brief moment that I'm escaping from my reality. I have to deal my problem, issues, my concern, like a couple of hours. I'm the first to admit when I was so addicted to gaming because of that. Because I didn't want to deal with my problem. I didn't want to deal. I just play
Mm-hmm.
games so that I can and games are an avenue, not just but from an reality. I'm glad to say better handle, but that's a reality, and I think a lot of people.
Mm. All right.
Okay.
How's that? Let's toss it to the rest of us, because I think
Okay.
all of us have to answer this.
Alright, fine. Why I play games? Well, honestly, I play games mostly for the. Most games I play are multiplayer.
Mm.
Yeah, the reason being because I like the interactions and playing with friends. That's why I also like board games because you can't
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
um when it comes to single player games, I don't really last long when I play it. But yeah, but I play the games for the social interactions with everyone else. Doesn't matter
Mm.
which game. I think the game is just there to parang um
Right. Right.
facilitate.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just there to facilitate, but that's mostly it
All right.
for me. Mm.
About you, Neens.
Okay, so pre-Christ, it would be, for, to escape certain, reality, certain problems. You can just,
Yeah.
pop in a game and just get lost in that world. But um, as I grew in my walk, I realized, like, multiplayer games are more fun, especially when played with friends. Oh,
Oh.
Just like killing us, Neens. I'm kidding.
just like deathmatch in Valorant. No, I'm kidding. So it's yeah, right now gaming for me is it's more of the interactions. Then same as Geo. Like
Mm.
there's some fun in playing, for example, Cyberpunk, but then it's not as fun, if it's just you. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of
Hmm.
like
So
Yeah, like
playing The
Somebody's
Sims by
complaining
yourself.
on the chat.
yeah, it's like
I
Vince.
I guess
Okay, shall
is I think is that the reason why some people actually stream? Para it's not just
So you
them
have
enjoying the
company.
game,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there's
yeah,
actually company.
That's true. It's possible. It's
yeah.
possible.
I think it's in the same manner that one of the big things on YouTube as are mukbangs.
Oh yeah,
Where
the
people
Hmm.
Oh
just eat.
yeah.
You know what? I think it's because people like the idea of eating with other people. So watching someone while eating while you're eating gives that pleasure.
it's like,
Of that
hey,
you're.
look at this awesome food.
So
Hmm.
it's the same thing.
Become a time
Playing
together.
games with other people, it and
Mm, mm, mm.
I think that's one of the things that's really changed in terms of gaming. We've moved away from single player game or multiplayer game over the recent years. Even
Yeah.
and I think that's the most common question now when a video game comes out. Does it have a multiplayer element? Why it
Yeah.
Mm.
can I interact with other people? Can I play with other people? And I think that's why like MMORPG, massively multiplayer online RPGs. I had to think what it meant again. That's why it's
Been
so
a while.
popular as well. Like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy, or what's so popular now, Genshin Impact. Why it's so popular? Because there's that element of social in a
Yep.
world where we are socially isolated because of this pandemic. That's
Right.
also bringing people together.
Just also mentioned Animal Crossing at the start of the
Yeah.
Oh
lockdown
yeah.
Ah,
quarantine. Yeah, it really helped me out too. Yeah. Animal
Yeah, because Animal
Crossing.
Crossing is like very social. It's a very social game because you all visit each other's islands and you decorate, and it's all very peaceful, relatively speaking, compared
Hmm.
to typical video games or the more popular spectrum of video games. So I'm pretty much the same, I guess, with everyone. Like I started off getting into video games. Why I started playing video games is the same. There's an escapism factor, running away from problems thing. But that's also the twisted view because I also
Yeah.
enjoy the story, the setting, and then and the sense of like achievement because games are designed to allow you to beat something. So in a lot of people, that sense of like, oh, I have done something is very refreshing for them, which is why it has that factor of being addictive. So for proper games, I wouldn't say proper games, but for most games in general, they do have this factor. Some games are specifically designed to trigger this, so those can be a bit tricky. But basically, yeah, I got into gaming because of entertainment, enjoyment, and so on. But also, like everyone else here, as I got older and had more responsibilities on my time, you start to reevaluate the time that you put, which is like, should I be gaming? Shouldn't I be gaming? Or what kind of game should I play? So, these are like things that you think of more. And it became more social for me that gaming became a means with which I could spend time with people instead. So, yeah, it's pretty much that. Like, again, as was mentioned earlier, with friends, spending time with friends, and sometimes even with family, it's possible. So yeah, so it can be seen that obviously there are some positives to gaming, but we're not really here to hammer down on that. But yeah, different considerations when you get older. The reasons for gaming, it became more of like enjoyment, spending time with friends, spending time with people who you want to connect with. Although, as always, as was mentioned, the competitive aspect is also still there. So, like, a lot of these games have ranking and so on. So, the achievement drive is still there because, a lot of people like that. It's just like sports, you want to get better at it too. So yeah, there's a mix of all these elements. But yeah, anyway, so I guess that pretty much covers a lot of the why.
I
Unless
think, and I think that balance that we have to understand that um, gaming in of
Mhm,
itself is not a bad thing. Like
mhm,
any form of entertainment, form of media,
Hmm.
any form of hobby. No. However, I think there are two things that normally, at least I see as something that we need to take a look at: is amount of
sure,
consumption, how much we consume, also the content. Those have to
Yeah.
look out. Right.
all right.
Let me just
So
read
let
some comments
Robin,
online.
sure,
Um,
go.
so one of the comments from Jesse said that there are some games that promote occultism, like, and it actually would be a question of how discerning are you and uh how sure you are to understand what being promoted, right? Um,
Yep. So
so
that's content.
I think there are games like, for example, I know I'm gonna get back for this. Like, games like Diablo, for example, or Magic the
Hmm.
Gathering might actually um to some games that people will have to discern for themselves. Is it something that they is away from God? You know?
Mm,
Something that's consuming their lives. Because I can actually see how might actually influence one. Kester says that there are, if it's a genre issue, there are also those who like to read
Yeah.
that focuses on demonic, occult
yep.
elements. And in fact,
Sure.
in
Yep.
media, personally, I want to say like TV. there are TV shows that are like really really questionable. For example, the new Sabrina TV. I used to love Melissa Joan
The
Hart on
comics.
and
The
Sabrina the
comics
Teenage Witch and then the comics,
and the
but
older '90s,
the
yeah.
reimagining on Netflix is very demonic. It has a lot of occult elements, and it's not I would recommend for anyone to watch, especially for those who are faint of heart or those who are, I would say, weak in the faith. Not just that, a lot of other TV shows have very that I watch it for a while or I'd watch one episode and then I never watch it again. And like for example, another TV show, Lucifer, right? I mean, it's in the name. they it's not something I'm gonna watch, and I'm definitely not going to.
Mm.
There are other.
Well, that said, the content impact varies on the person.
Just oh, what happened?
Oh, I think that Tom dropped out.
Can I just
Yo,
and can I just interject that
go
Diablo
for it.
is actually
You're
the
fighting,
the
yeah.
game itself. I think is it's about fighting.
Fighting a
The
demon.
Actually, you're fighting the
fighting a demon.
Diablos. Yeah, you're fighting the demons.
Yeah, yeah.
So
You're
I
you're
actually
you're
played the
not.
game.
Yeah,
I
You're not
actually played
actually
the
just
game.
embodying
You're not actually
the
embodied
demon.
the demon,
Yeah,
fighting the demon. Although there is an ending where one of your the hero becomes the demon.
yeah. Well, that's the bad ending.
That's
Basically,
the
it's
bad
like you
ending. Yeah.
choose to be a good person or you choose to be a bad person. That's basically it. So, anyway,
Chris says that there are four considerations: intention or motive of the doer of the game or the gamer, the nature of the
right,
game itself, the
right.
circumstances, and the content. They're really
Exactly.
good good points.
Yeah, those are that's a great framework actually. That's why I brought us I was thinking like, hey, let's go back to the whys. Why do we do things? And then it's like, as Christians, which is what the main topic also was, like um why would Christians game, right? So, yeah, jumping back to the top of the entire theme for the evening is like why would Christians game? And one of the things that we all have in common is as we grew in our faith, we veered away from the element of games, which was self satisfaction,
Hmm.
towards social interaction, which is an outward flow. It's not just, trying to feed yourself, but actually you connecting towards others, which is what I believe um, a more productive and loving use of our time. But yeah, it goes
Yeah.
back to like the intent. What is the intent? What is the nature? The content. So it changes the dynamic from just feeding yourself, feeding in some sense of I don't know. It can go from anywhere from satisfaction, achievement, trying to control some little thing in your life, or
Mm.
something like trying to chase away loneliness or whatever. There's so many different reasons why people can game to feed themselves in. But when you reconnect outwards and you use it instead as a means for something else, not in of itself alone for yourself, then it changes things. So yeah.
I just want to shout out that I have Peter Jr. in the live stream. Hi Peter,
Hey
thank
Peter.
you for joining us. Um,
Yep.
I
uh, I think what you said is just very important. For one, that game consume. Uh, uh, take a look at the
Mm.
concerning. And that
mhm.
I mentioned earlier, GTA is not a game that I play because I just feel it's goes against my value.
Right, right.
It feels like doesn't not glorifying to
Mm.
uh it's really as mature people, not just saying as Christians, as mature. We're no longer teenagers. We're working millennials.
we are. We are.
be careful what we consume. I'm not saying that because I'm playing a violent video game, for example, something like a shoot 'em up, or I'm gonna start looking for guns and start shooting. That's a wrong correlation, and I just want to say
Mm-mm.
that it's been disproven. Studies show have attempted gun violence who had gaming experience were already violent to be.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't correlate that. There are games that may not necessarily be something that you want to consume anymore. But I remember having nightmares. I remember having grasping for air in the middle of the night, and I couldn't sleep properly. I had to stop playing because it was the one giving me.
Mm.
It had to be end of the games.
Yep, content. So like pointing out the content because the impact of content can vary per person. Like I like to compare it to food. So like certain
Mm.
types of food can be enjoyed by people, but for another person it causes allergies, it causes I don't know, let's say lactose intolerance. So what we consume, like what you said, right? Consume. So food, we consume food. Depending on
Right.
what we consume can impact our bodies differently. So similarly, the kind of games or entertainment in general that we consume can impact us differently. So the amount can impact us differently, the content itself can impact us differently, and we have to just apply wisdom to that, just like eating food. Like if you know that a certain type of food gives you a bad reaction, or it gives you a bad reaction if you consume too much of it. Like dairy is such an
Mm.
easy example, so I'll just use dairy. So like some people are mildly lactose intolerant, eating a bit really doesn't matter, but if you get to a certain level, it just starts to really hurt and kill you or something. So it's the same thing with entertainment and games in particular. You gotta know what doesn't really trigger negative effects on you and what does, and then what if it triggers negative effects, to what degree. So, of course, the most conservative advice is just avoid all the negative stuff. But basically, at the ground of that is you have to use your head. You have to use your head. Be smart about what you're taking in and the time you spend with it, the quantity you consume.
Yeah.
I
Right.
just want to
And
mention Kester's comment here. He did reflect what you also said. Na I think what matters most when it comes to gaming is the moderation and
Mm-hmm.
the discernment of whatever it is we consume.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right?
I agree with the comment from Kester. And as as Christians and uh, model citizens, no, we have
Aspiring.
to be
Aspiring.
Aspiring.
have to be mindful of what how much time we consume. I think this leads me to the next question. Um, does the Bible have anything to say when it comes to playing video? I think I think at the end of the day, back to God,
Mm-hmm.
we have to think what are the dangers is and what are the things we can and more about this topic. I'll give the floor to G. What does the about video game?
Wait. um. Actually, can you get back to me on that? I'm actually doing a little bit more research.
Sure, no problem. How
Yes.
about you? Need have any thoughts on?
Um, it's to be like whatever is pure, whatever is
Sorry,
right.
your
You're
Mm,
cutting
audio
in
is
and out.
cutting out.
Oh, sorry. Whatever is pure, whatever is right.
Oh,
Mm.
yep.
Whatever is pure, whatever
Verse,
is
right? Right.
pure.
I think
Right.
that's Philippians chapter 4, verse. Maybe one of you guys
Yeah.
pull it up.
Yep. Yeah. Philippians 4:8. Um,
Here we go, bro.
ESV. So, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just,
Mhm.
whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think
Mhm.
about these things.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing that verse. I think that's really a good principle.
Yep. So the principle we're drawing from this particular verse is basically anything we do, if it has these qualities, then these are the things that we should put our mind to. Now, to qualify, like, are games or do games possess any of these qualities? Or does time spent with games possess any of these qualities? The answer is sometimes it can,
Hmm.
because you can do a lot of things which glorify. Because uh, one thing I'd like to point out is that God is someone who created us to create, and also He enabled us to enjoy the works that He's placed on this earth, and for us to yeah, to enjoy as well. So games also kind of actually fall under that category. Video games is a new thing, but like enjoyment in general, like music, dance, and all of these other older quote unquote forms are things that the Lord actually includes, right? You know, you have praise and worship music, you have dance, so you have a lot of variety in the thing that God has said. These are good things. Now, of course, video games specifically don't appear in the Bible
Of
because,
course.
well, of course, it didn't exist. So I think fundamentally what you're looking at is how do people spend time, which is a more timeless piece of wisdom which
Hmm.
God gives us, which is what it connects to what Nina reminded of us in Philippians 4:8. So when we spend our time, is it pure? Is it lovely, commendable, and so on? So I want to actually pull in also another verse, which is First Corinthians 6:12, which says, "All things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be enslaved by anything." So I think this is the important things. Like, you can actually do a lot of things, but the important point here is, are the things that we're doing, because it can be anything. It says here all things,
Hmm.
right? It says here all things, not limited to games. It can actually go to other good parts of life, like work is good and productive, but it still falls under I will not be enslaved by. So we have to bear in mind a bigger picture when it comes to viewing how we spend and live out our lives. And gaming is just one part of it, one possible part of it, of how we spend our lives, which falls under this entire principle of, is it lawful for me? Is it beneficial? Diba? Are we enslaved by
Hmm.
it? Because that last part is the kicker. So
Right.
anything, if you're
You can
enslaved
do good
by
in.
it, then that's wrong.
Hmm.
But a lot of things you can do good with. So therefore,
Yeah.
you can consider it. So yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like with
Yeah.
like what we try to do here in Level Up. We try to use video games and these other geek uh,
Things.
Activity.
things
Yeah.
as platforms for, well, sharing the gospel, or even just showing how God is working through us. Um,
Hmm.
and I was about to show like can be done in video games, like say for example those competitive games like Wild Rift or Valorant.
Shout
Uh,
out to the
um,
Valorant peeps.
yeah, because like you know how there's lots of toxic players.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right, and uh,
So
parang
non-toxic
in the
competition.
believe in the Bible says what to become salt and light to the earth, and
Mhm.
I mean to be through these games can also be another way. I believe, like just being a positive, just being at least even just a few positive uh players. If I mean if it is a few
Yeah,
for the others, just so at least they don't get I don't know
toxic.
right. I mean, we've met a few people just through the game as
Games.
well,
That's true.
right?
So
Yeah,
like
like we have a
it's
friend
the
in
idea of
the
peacemakers, right? So you
mm-hmm.
diffuse toxic situations because there's so much of that already in the world.
I think that's
Instead
really.
of like,
Go ahead.
oh, go ahead, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Linay.
Oh, instead of like being toxic to a new player or a player that isn't really doing good, like we can just instruct them, right? Like also guide
Mm,
them,
Hmm. Edify.
I,
edify.
I think
Show
it's
love
interesting.
to one another.
I like that you've mentioned the word edify. And in Paul's writings in Corinthians, mentioned that in chapter 6, what John mentioned. But he also says that again in chapter 10, verse 3, where he says,
Hmm.
all things are permitted, but not all things are of benefit. All things are permitted, but not all things build people up. Not all
all right.
things edify.
Hmm.
And so the question
Mm-hmm.
is, are we engaging in these games? Are we edifying people? Are we building? I remember a story that John mentioned quite a while back about our friend of ours playing games. I forgot what game at the time, and
League of Legends.
Legends. And I remember him saying he wasn't the Christian, but everybody else in the party was, and he was saying that
Mm.
it's refreshing to play with Christians with these guys because there was no shaming, there was no insults, there was no back talk and trash talking. Instead, "No, it's okay, it's fine." They were encouraging, they were giving tips. So felt he felt at ease playing with them. So
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
I think it's really important that we actually uh, show that kind of value or kind of character when we actually do play games and engage with. Paul even says in whatever verse, what do you call this, in verse 31 of chapter 10, verse chapter 10, whatever we do, whether we eat or drink, all for the glory of God, right? And so how are we able to do that when we're eating, when we playing games? That is actually thought that comes. I think important to also take into account: are we consuming the game? Are we in control of ourselves, or are the game controlling us? Because I think if there's anything that to be careful of, is that the games are the ones that's controlling us already. There's the Bible's also about self. It's a gift that comes from the Holy Spirit. If there is no self, allowing the game to take over, and it's like like drinking alcohol, even drugs, elite drugs, no longer have that self. There is in line comes to
Mm-mm.
playing
Mm-mm.
games. In of itself, it's neutral. It's not a bad thing. That's the same way we watch TV or listen to. But if it's too much and it's controlling our life, then I think we need to reassess and really, look at how we're dealing with our issues in life.
All right. So we are close to the our 1 hour session. So any
Hmm.
final things you want to tackle, and then maybe we can sum it.
Uh,
I'll sum it up
well,
first.
there are a few questions in the chat.
That's
Let's see.
true. That's true. John, you wanna pick one out?
It says here, there's a question here. I like the question. Just because gaming is not in the Bible, we are free to indulge in it.
Yeah. Are we free to indulge in it? Yes, yeah.
And I think a lot of things are not in the Bible, but I think that's why we have to really check, turn what the right.
Mm.
For example, in Ephesians 5:18 it says, "Do not be drunk with wine, but because it leads to debauchery, but be filled with the Holy Spirit." And I think if you think about it very clearly, it doesn't just include wine. It's anything that controls us, anything that would
Mhm.
Right.
quote unquote debauchery that would lead
Right.
to
I mean,
sin,
Exactly.
right? Let's not
it,
fill
it
Exactly.
never
ourselves with that.
yeah, it never said don't drink wine, just don't get drunk.
That's
Exactly,
true.
exactly.
Everything in moderation, basically.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of
So
things that we can take in moderation. That's true. So I guess the idea behind that would be like, just to clarify, is that yes, there are a lot of things that are not specifically mentioned in the Bible. However, there is a lot in Scripture that can instruct us in how we should treat or behave all of these things that are not specifically mentioned in Scripture. For example, social media is not in the Bible, but obviously we don't treat social media quite, as evil as gaming. Um, Movies aren't in the Bible. TV shows aren't in the Bible. Listening to radio is in the Bible. So there's a lot of things that really aren't in the Bible, and they
mhm.
don't need to be. They don't need to be because the principles that are illustrated or lined out in the Bible can instruct us in our hearts and minds. And that is actually what can instruct you regardless of the specific activity. Because, I'm sure when we're much older, there's going to be some new technological discovery or some new activity that'll come out. And then you're going to ask, is this in the Bible? It's like, no, probably not. You know? I mean, you could might as well ask like, is nuclear fusion in the Bible? No. Is the scientific discovery in the Bible? Technically, no. But is anyone gonna say that discovering new things in the name of science is demonic or not something to pursue? I don't think a lot of people are gonna do that. So the guiding principle of what the Bible teaches us actually it just considers all of these things as almost irrelevant because its instructions go so much deeper and can instruct us in every aspect and way of life, regardless of the medium in which it takes form. So that's just something I wanted to throw out there.
I just also want to add that the word Bible is not in the Bible.
That's
So
true. The word
just
Bible,
so we
the
understand
Bible
that,
itself
right?
is the Bible. So yeah.
The word
So
Bible's
it's a
not
great
there.
question. It's a great question. It's a great question because it helps us to remember that hey, you know what? The things that we learn in the Bible can apply even if it's not specifically mentioned there. Because it's so grounded, it's so timeless, it's so fundamental in how it instructs us that if you learn it properly, if you learn it in your life, it can you can really apply it with wisdom in everything. With maturity, you can apply it in everything in how you live your life.
All right. So I saw
Right.
another comment here. Actually, I'll just kind of summarize it. But there is
Sure.
discussion on where gaming actually leads to career. I think that's another topic.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
touch on it briefly. That yeah, I completely agree. Gaming is not something that in fact, the gaming industry. For those who don't know, the gaming industry is actually so big that the industry and TV industry, actually most of the entertainment industry combined, is not as
Mm,
big as the gaming industry. The
Yeah.
still bigger. It, which
correct.
means there is a lot of money floating in there. Then there are a lot of jobs and opportunities. Vince even mentioned that Christians can be in sports or electronic sports, right?
Hmm.
There
I think,
are some.
and I think this is really,
That's something I'd like
really,
to explore sometime.
yeah, and I think it's something that we can discuss this time. But definitely, I think as Christians, be where the world is. Jesus even said in his prayer that his disciples were in the world, but they are not of. So I think that's really important to understand that principle that we as Christians we are in the world, but we are not of that world. No, we have to reject the things that are not that are not. But but there is nothing wrong being part of that world, being able to interact and engage in it. And I think this are as long as we are here on Earth, that we have to engage with people who don't know Christ yet, and
Correct.
we have to engage in hobbies where people are. We have to understand where people are as well. I think
Mm.
The Apostle Paul was uh, agree with me on that. Wow. I assumed that Apostle Paul would
Well,
agree
we
with me,
can
but
ask him eventually in
the
time.
Bible shows that Paul used the context of what the people were in. He even used the idols that the people believed in to point people. So
That's true.
I think that's really a amazing thing that not stop ourselves from in the world just because there are quote unquote demonic tendencies or bad
Difficult
influences.
thing.
I think I think the Holy Spirit also strong enough work in us so that we can actually um be discerning. We can have the power to not be influenced by the world, but be the ones to influence people to Christ. Somebody mentioned that we are to be salt and light in the gaming world.
Mm. All right. So closing statements. I think I'd like. How's that? Closing statements from the team before we uh wrap it up.
Um, I mean, just a recap of what we discussed.
No,
What was
personally,
the original question? I mean,
yeah.
The original question that we had definitely is Christians games. I think video game, and the short answer is yes and no. Yes, because
depends on.
it really depends. I think it on the content that I'm playing, the amount of time am I playing, it, it taking my time away. But in of itself, the game, video game, and actually there are studies it can even improve uh, uh, cognitive thinking, reflexes, right? And so I think we have a healthy dose of playing games. I say healthy, you know, we're not obsessed by it. We all our time. We don't spend hours playing games until wee hours of the night. I think they're just practical that we should have. And
Hmm?
I'm saying this. This actually applies to many things. Watching TV shows or even sports. Because if you're obsessing on anything, no longer glorifying God.
Mm.
Yes, way for us to engage other people. Yes, it's also it's a everybody is, but no, it is becoming obsessive if it's addictive. No, if it is influencing you.
Mm.
Hmm.
All right. Who's next?
I mean, I was just gonna say
Yeah, I
yes.
was gonna
There
say
there is like they say with that. The harvest is plentiful.
Mm.
workers are few.
Workers are
Yeah.
few.
So I
Yeah.
mean, right. I mean, get some Christian gamers in there. But I mean, but if you, as long as you can, gauge what, how you are with gaming. Like if you can tell if you're getting addicted to something or if it's getting bringing out the worst in you. Uh, then yeah, I mean, if you can gauge up to a certain point where you can go.
Mm.
But if you're still like, yeah, I mean, if you can't really do that, then I mean, I definitely say don't try, or at the very least, I mean, play with people who can keep you accountable, so they can tell you when you are going over a line.
Mm-hmm.
Right word, the perfect word.
Yep.
Mhm.
How about you, Nins?
We can't
Closing
hear you again.
thoughts.
I'm sorry. Hello.
Hello.
You
Hello.
you know in classroom setups where you're almost the last one and all of your classmates have given the answer. That happened just now,
I'm saving myself for last.
but
So
I would agree with what Gio and JB said that yes, we as Christians can play video games,
Hmm.
but if it's addictive, if it's derailing you in your life, or it's basically can I speak Tagalog?
Oh,
yeah, go for it.
Okay,
yes.
Go.
napapabayaan mo na
We're gonna put
yung
subtitles.
buhay mo and your personal your family, just everything napapabayaan mo na. Then that's probably the point where you should, take a step back and not do that. Because it
Mm.
is becoming an idol if at that point.
Yeah, I'm
So
gonna
everything in
take
moderation.
from that. Correct. So I'm gonna take a. I'm gonna jump off from what Nina said. So basically, yeah, um, any activity, including video gaming, including gaming of all sorts, is something to be aware of. Like, yes, be aware of what it's like, how it works. But ultimately, anything in this life, any good thing in this life, for that matter, family, work, career, relationships, and almost anything can become an idol in your life, which is what we've been learning. So as Christians, we have to know, has anything become an idol in our life?
Hmm.
And gaming can be an idol in our life if this thing replaces um, the highest priority of what you're doing day in and day out, which is not, it's not supposed to be there. So games and other and entertainment in general are supposed to be one of the moderately low priorities, because these are the things that you use to um, these are things you plug in after all the major responsibilities and anchor points of your life have been addressed, which is, of course, God comes first. And then if you're married, your spouse, your family, your kids, and so on. And then what are other things? Work, ministry, relationships, and gaming is just treated like anything else, an activity. An activity can be a tool, or it can be a crutch, something that can be an obstacle. So yeah, you just look at it in the view of, which I think what we've been all been saying. There's a lot of nuance to it, right? Which we would love to unpack, but we're running out of time tonight. But gaming as an activity is a very interesting thing, which is so nuanced. It's like books, movies, shows, and all these other entertainment mediums. For some people, it can be healthy. For some people, it can't. And for some people, it depends what kind of specific game you're doing. So, yeah, at the end of the day, as a Christian, you just got to ask yourself, have I made this into an idol or not? And that will give you the answer if you should or shouldn't be playing games. So, yeah, apply wisdom, get people who have sense to be your accountability friends. It's great if you can have fellow Christians who are also geeks or gamers, because they're gonna totally understand you much better than a non-gamer. And
Hmm.
personally, if someone who's a gamer tells me like, "Hey, John, you're playing too much," I won't be able to say like, "Oh, you don't understand." It's like, no, no, I actually do totally understand. Get out of here. Get out. Shoot, shoot, shoot. So like, it's the impact is different. You know, call it an expert opinion. Like, if a person who doesn't know what they're talking about tells you to stop versus someone who knows what your experience tells you to stop, it can be very helpful. So yeah, that's the summit for me.
All right.
Um,
Thanks, John. Thanks, guys, for all those comments and feedback. Let me just go ahead and run through some of the things that I see in the chat. Um,
Sure.
somebody said holodecks will be possible in the future. So, um,
Looking forward to that.
so yeah. And Vince Hauson just asked bakit daw may pag-atake sa late night gaming.
Because we caught him playing Grandio. Is that it?
We're not here to out people.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Please. It's okay.
But
We'll
you-
give you your airtime, Vince. You're gonna get your divine justice. I'm just kidding. I don't
You
know.
will get your 5 minutes. No, but it's not really an attack on late night gaming. But I think we
More
also have to
discipline.
think of it the principle of when we talk about health that
Health and
do it
discipline.
once in a while. I guess it's not gonna be. I mean, a lot of people do once in a while things, but if you're doing it regularly, it's really not going to be healthy for you or anyone for that matter. Kester says harvest is plentiful in Harvest Moon. Nakakainis.
Also plentiful in the world.
But Vince
Not
says
when you're
it depends
starting out.
now if you planted properly. Singles now are to late night talks while gamers are to late night gaming. Okay. And I
What if
think
you're both?
I love the point that
What about single gamers?
that's a good point.
Late night gaming talks.
Grinding and I don't know.
Killing people. No, that's terrible. Anyway,
So let me just double check anything else here.
Don't forget the
Uh,
hygiene.
Yes,
Sabi ni
the
Vince.
hygiene. I think that's very important to also take note.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are most of the comments. Kester also says one verse I prayed that God used to reveal that I was addicted was in Psalm 139:23-24. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my concerns. See if there is any offensive way in me. Lead me in the way of everlasting. That's a really good verse. I think. I think
it is.
we
It is.
should always pray this.
Let
To
the Lord
God.
test you.
To the Lord test you, to the
Siya.
Lord reveal to you if there really is addiction in your heart, if there's any idolatry, if there's anything that takes you away from God. And I think just to wrap up and summarize for this evening, we are tackling this question because I think it's very relevant now, especially that everybody's at home. And I'm sure that not just singles, but there are a lot of people, even parents, who worry about gaming. And there's really a lack of understanding, especially in the Christian community, in the church, what gaming is all about. And I think this is why it's important for us to really, discuss, have a platform for discussion on these things. And we're not saying that what we are saying here is absolute truth, but that there are guiding principles, there are biblical principles that we should take a look at when it comes to gaming. And then I think we also always have to take a moderate stance. Let's not take an extreme far right stance when it comes to
Far left.
or far left, but actually it's far right stance where no, gaming is gaming is bad, gaming is demonic, without really understanding all about how the gaming industry or the community is working. And let's face it, a majority of people are in the gaming community, and I think there are not enough Christians who are actually in the community setting a positive standard, a positive or showing positive values in the community. And not a lot of people are pointing people to Christ, but I am first personally, I am so encouraged because there are tons of there are resources popping up. More Christians are being open about their faith in the community, where before it would for those who don't know, if you are in the gaming community and you call yourself a Christian, people also laugh at you. You also get persecution on that side of the table. So on that side of the
So yeah.
so um what I'm saying here is that it's really an important question to discuss. And I think the answer is really, number one, what would Jesus do? That's I think that's really a basic question that we should ask ourselves. And is it glorifying to God? What we are doing, will it glorify God? Will it edify other people? Will it build up other people, or is it becoming an idol in our lives? And I think this is a very important question to ask ourselves in reflection. And so with that,
Hmm.
I think there are actually other more topics that we can discuss about, and we will talk about it. An upcoming topic that we will be discussing and we will schedule is what games should we be playing. I mean, if we're playing games, are there games that are really bad that we should avoid, or are there games that we can consume? So I think it's something that
Yep.
we need to talk about as well. And I think in this discussion there are many opinions on that. So there's no one single opinion for what games that we can play. But I think it
That's
should give
true.
you, if you're listening, if you're wondering what good games are or what are bad games, and this is a discussion that you can listen in and maybe get some wisdom. All
Some
right.
ideas.
Hmm.
So with that,
All right.
before we close, I
Mm.
just also want to ask everyone who's watching, thank you. I just want to tell them thank you for joining us for this
Mm-hmm.
hour and actually
Amen.
15 minutes. Around we peaked at around 32 people watching
Mm.
us on Facebook and a few more on
Thank you,
YouTube.
sirs,
So thank you so
ladies and
much,
gentlemen.
guys. So I would like you guys to. This video will be kept on the Facebook page, and so it will be. If anyone wants to rewatch it or want to share it with others, we encourage it. Make sure to like our Facebook page, and watch out for our next events, which will
Yep.
be popping up online. And
We'll be posting it on the groups and
yes,
the
make sure
page.
to react to our video. If you're watching on YouTube, that's actually my personal YouTube channel that I'm starting called the Christian
Mhm.
Geek. And if you're there, please make sure to give a thumbs up to the video,
Like and
subscribe, and hit
subscribe.
the bell button. I've
Click
been
that
wanting
bell
to say that. Hit
button.
that bell button. So I've been wanting to say that a long time, but all
Nice.
right. So there
Mind
you
if we
go.
do any shameless plugs?
Yeah,
Thank-
go for it.
go.
So,
Here.
go Gio.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said earlier, I write for the geeks, so feel free to like and follow the Facebook page, facebook.com/the geeks. Also, I have there's also a YouTube channel, the same, which is also DA Geeks as well.
Mhm.
I also have a Twitch channel. I don't really have much on it yet, but you know, twitch.tv/giobsar, GIOBSAR.
All right.
Right. And
Nice.
if
Can
you
I plug
guys,
as
yes,
well?
go
Yeah,
ahead.
go
Go
plug
ahead.
everything.
Oh wait, everything? No, I'm kidding.
Any?
Okay,
Plug what you want.
I will be streaming for DA Geeks then, or the Geeks. So make sure to follow their page, their FB page and YouTube channel. And my Twitch is Raela Paella. It's hard to. I'll just put it on the comments below. Oh, Nox, diba?
We'll
And
we'll pin
then
it. We'll pin it.
open it. And yeah, I think that's about it. If you want arts and keycaps, I have Arcane Vine. Shopee available sa Shopee. Shopee Becca naman collab joke.
Oh,
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
done.
so
tuto pa naman
un- un-
bukas.
unlike everyone else, I don't have anything to plug except for LUGN, but I think that's good enough. So thank
Yep.
you for joining us on Level Up Geek Nights, and we hope that you can join us also for our hangouts on Discord or anywhere really on our Facebook group or page, LUGN. So you can join us there, and we'd be happy to have you over. Uh, Again, the group is not just for Christians. Anyone is welcome. So you can be a geek, a gamer, and yeah, you can find a community there. But especially for those who are Christians and geeks, we'd love you to join us and be part of our digital family and church. So the ecclesia. But anyway,
Yes, and if you
I think
have
that's
any
it.
and if you have any questions,
Yes.
comments, feedback, we would love to hear from you. We respond right away. So just leave a comment,
We'll
or you can message
put a
us
link
on
soon.
Facebook,
Yep.
and we'll reply right away. And hopefully that
We
will
look
Or,
see
you
you
know,
forward to
too.
they could also join the Discord.
They can join the
yes.
Discord.
Discord at
It's Yeah,
Put the link down.
we will put the link in the comments. You can
Yeah.
also find that actually if you go to the Facebook page and
Yeah.
hang out with us. And
Yeah.
we
It's
would
pretty easy.
love to hear from you. We would love to play with you guys, or even just simply ask questions. And if you are interested to know more about Christianity and faith, definitely talk to us. We will plug you in. All right. So with that, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and see you soon, guys. Thank you.
See you
Goodbye.
soon. Godspeed.
Bye.